To another edition of Hot Topics here at pubsportsradio.com. Me and my best friend in the business, I like to say, Jeff, how about that, the BMOC? We're going to get to talking some Major League Baseball. You voted on it, Jeff. And Jeff, wait, before that, I am your best friend in this industry, right?
I would say so. I mean, I don't have many, but I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get talking some baseball because, hey, it's rainy. Like, we're in the same general region. It's rainy. It's cold. We had like an 80-degree day last week, Jeff, but right back to doom and gloom. We're quarantined in. We were supposed to get Major League Baseball action this week. Obviously, that's not going to take place. A lot of rumors coming out when we're going to start up, when we need to start up. And that starts with, Jeff, an additional 30 days of spring training when we do get underway.
Yeah, I think that's a bit much, and I think that will probably be pulled back a little bit. Donnie, you look at the 95 work stoppage, which they ended up having a 2-week spring training crash course, basically. Yeah. And I think that will be enough. I mean, we have to look at prior to this quarantine and everything, what were they, about 3 or 4 weeks into spring training? So, I mean, they got plenty of time, but again, you need to obviously get the rhythm and timing down, all that sort of thing. And, exhibition games help. I think, Donnie, the thing about this quarantine, I think from a political standpoint, from a sports standpoint, from any standpoint, I think they're always looking at worst case scenario, right? So I think it's capable and culpable to say that I think 2 weeks is enough. I think you put the rosters at 28 and you run with it. The question is, how does that push back? Does the trade deadline stay at July 31st? Do they have an all-star game this year? What do the playoffs look like? So it's going to be interesting. I think one thing we can obviously know is we're going to have baseball this year. It's really just a question of when. I think the 4 weeks is a little too many. I think they really just looked at it. But, Donnie, at the end of the day, there's really nothing you can do. And the longer the shutdown lasts, the less, I think feasible all this might be. So, again, I think 2 weeks is adequate.
Like, to me, like, when I look at it, like, losing game checks and losing games, that's a lot of money both Major League Baseball players and owners are going to lose. Now, we're just pontificating on what we think might take place because we're still a little bit of time out. But the more gates that you can get, you go to double headers, which we've seen. And also, we'll put it in a Yankees perspective here, Jeff. Like, Garrett Cole just gets signed. Correct me if I'm wrong. He didn't sign for, $1 million a year. It's basically like $1 million a game he's going to play. Do you just throw your huge investments out there right away when maybe they're used to getting 3 to 4 months to ramp up? That's been, then the interval has changed. Because when you look at it from that perspective here and you say, hey, we'll just throw double headers in, that just doesn't really work out. And you want to put your big investments in those spots.
Yeah, it's interesting with the whole getting paid thing because the MLB and the Players Association, if you look at the standard player contract, from what I understand, there's a clause that allows teams to suspend contracts during a national emergency. But is this a national emergency? I mean, has it been called a national emergency, I guess is the question. So I think there's certain legal lingo that you have to maybe try to get around, but you would hope they work on that and obviously figure it out. But you make a good point. I mean, it's you have guys that are worth obviously a Garrett Cole type of money, and then you have guys that are worth Luis Cessa money. So it's it's pretty fascinating. Again, it sucks because you could understand if they never started, but you started, you kind of got some cohesiveness and chemistry, and then it was just basically pulled, and then you got to get up and get started again. So, look, these are the best athletes in the world, and I think they'll be quick to bounce back. But you look at all sports, Donnie. I mean, you look at like NBA and all these different sports, there's going to be a period where you're going to have to kind of, does the NBA just start again? I guess they do, because there's not really a way you can just play games that don't matter. But like these players, what do they do every day? Like, they're not like, not all of them have gyms in their houses where they can go like a shack and play basketball for 2 or 3 hours. You look at your standard player, anybody. I mean, they live in a high-rise apartment building probably. So what are these guys doing all day? You can't go to the team facility.
Like you saw some of the videos come out and bringing up your Yankees again. Like Garrett Cole, he's having a catch with his wife. Like you're not working out with like your catcher, like you're having a catch with your wife just trying to pass by. So there is going to be some time. But I also want to bring up something, Jeff, which is obviously near and dear to our heart. One of my favorite seasons of all time was the lockout that they had in the late 90s when Allen Iverson and the Sixers made their resurgence and got back to the playoffs. It was basically a sprint to the finish line, which can bring in some of these teams that if you can just get hot or stick around for a month and a half can stay in the playoff race. So let's just say they postpone the Major League Baseball season and it doesn't start until, let's just say, worst case scenario, like July the 1st. Obviously, you can't push the season back, being it's baseball, to December or January because you can't play in that cold of weather. But could we add some excitement here for some of these teams in a sprint to the finish? Instead of having 162 games, maybe it's limited to 85 games and you get that sprint.
Yeah, I mean that's another interesting question. Like there's you look back to other years. 1961, they only played up until then. They only played 154 games. Yeah. Then you look at that work stoppage; they only played 144. There's been seasons where they've played 103, 110, whatever. According to baseball, their indications are they want to play the full season. I don't know how that actually figures. I mean, I guess that would mean you'd play in November. It's really odd. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't see there's any way they could do that. I think you'd have to cut it back. Listen, Donnie, at any rate, I don't care if they play 80 games. I don't get to just play something. Give me something.
Yeah, I mean, you might even get down to, Jeff, like as we talked about, like double headers. You might have double headers on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, which again would lead to expanded rosters, and you can't do certain things. And also, Jeff, obviously us being in the gambling content business, boy, how does that change some things up? Because you know me, I like to slow play it into the season, see what happens. Jeff, I might slow play where I can't even bet any baseball games if I sit it out a month. It's crazy time.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any room for that. I think you got to jump right in, man. And I think at this point, I mean, why not? I mean, what have you been doing this entire time? So, yeah, I think it's about, again, you can't be doom and gloom with them. You got to think about what's going to happen eventually because it's going to come. Yeah. Donnie, let me ask you before we go, what do you think the chances are that we actually play 162 games? What's the percentage?
Zero. It has to be zero. It can't. We already play the World Series, Jeff, in November. Are we playing it in New York City in December and trying to worry about the snow?
Well, look, I mean, it hasn't snowed really at all.
Yep, exactly. So, that's a good out.
I don't, I think it's, I guess if it starts before June 1st, I think it's plausible.
I mean, it'll be a wild, wild ride as we see it going down. But again, these are the times that we need to talk about some stuff like this because we don't have the stuff going on the baseball field or, we're missing out on March Madness right now. We can only hope that this pandemic, we get ahead of it. We get baseball back to normality sooner than later in this stuff. Yeah.
Think about this. Right now, we should know who's in the Sweet 16.
Oh, man.
Think about that.
Well, no, not the Sweet 16. This would have been the first weekend, right? So we would know the 32.
No, we would know who's in the Sweet 16. They play Sweet 16.
Right. That's true. Yeah. Yep, you would have the 32.
So we'd be looking towards the Final Four.
Crazy. And baseball, like it's the 23rd, the 26th was opening day. Like,
baseball
hey, Jeff,
starting on Thursday.
Garrett Cole's starting this week, and Gonzaga's making a run this week. Oh, man,
I think one of the things, Donnie, most that I'm irritated by with this is that exact point. Like, if the tournament happens, and let's say this happened on April 5th, where we get shut down, I'd be okay with it because, like, you know what? At least we got to see that. Yep. But we lost a great March Madness. It sucks.
Yeah, sports will never be the change, but that's what it is. Keep on voting on these hot topics day to day. Me and Jeff will keep bringing that video content, having fun. Got some big things planned in the future here at pubsportsradio.com. So keep us in the loop. We'll keep you in the loop. For myself and Jeff, thanks for tuning in to another edition of Hot Topic of the Day, presented by pubsportsradio.com.